This conference will now be recorded.
So what we discussed in the last session?
Error handling in MUEL4.
Okay. Can anyone tell me what is that? I mean, what you remember from that last one? Because I need to continue. Whatever you remember, I need to continue from there, right? So what do you remember? What are the top? I mean, I have discussed about many key points. I know it's a little bit confusing topics as well, but we referred multiple times as well, right? So can anyone repeat or can anyone give me brief for 5 minutes what we discussed and all? Yeah, quick. Shrikant, Sushmita, I think Arvind also joined. Arvind, Krishna, Suresh, Mitiku, anyone? So you are thinking about where to start? I will tell you. I have a flow. Okay, assume I have a flow, and I got one exception at one of the processor level. Now tell me, once you get an exception, what are the steps to be followed? What happens?
The flow will stop,
Mm-hmm.
and then error object will be built.
Mm-hmm.
Like a mule runtime will try to handle it through the local error handler.
Mm-hmm.
If there is no local error handler, it will be handled by mule default error handler.
Perfect.
And error will be rethrown to the caller. So if it is on the subflow, it will go to the flow reference. If it is in the main flow, it will go to the listener.
Very good. Next. What else? If anyone want to add some points, please add, guys.
What else we can error will have description and error type.
Okay.
The description is type string, and whatever we see in the picture, error type will have namespace and identifier. And namespace defines the module. And identifier will give you the type of the error.
Perfect. Right. Next.
And,
I'm asking too much, right, from your end?
yeah, no, that is okay. Yeah. So
anyone, I mean, not only Arvind, anyone can respond, guys. Please, whatever you remember.
Oh, okay. This piece I didn't mention. So before returning the error, it will be logged onto the console. That part I didn't mention. So
okay, let me go through this quickly. Okay, so we are discussing about a MUEL4 error handler. Arvind, some background noise, Arvind.
Yeah.
So we are discussing about a MUEL4 error handling. So what is this? What is this slide is meant for? If I get any of the processor, I got an exception at another processor level. First, it will stop the execution of the remaining process and it will check in a local error handler. Do I have any error handler? It will be handled. If not, then yes.
Default error handler will be used.
Yeah, please read this first slide quickly.
If there is no error handler defined, a mule default error handler is used.
Understood? Next. It is an implicit object. We cannot, this mule default error handler, we cannot see that, right? So that is the reason I have written here, cannot be configured as well. What it will do? It will stop the execution of the flow and logs the information about the error. Got it? Next. Yeah, please read quickly.
When an error is thrown, an error object is created.
Okay.
Two of its properties include error.description, a string type, error.error type, an object type.
Yes, understood yesterday as per our discussion, right? Next.
Error types are identified by a namespace and an identifier.
A few examples I have given. HTTP is the module namespace and unauthorized, one of the error type. Connectivity is one of the error type. Yesterday, in our scenario, validation is a namespace. Invalid boolean is an identifier, right? Now, this is the hierarchy as I mean, as we seen in yesterday's use case. Yes.
Yes.
What is this hierarchy? Yes. What is this hierarchy? I have given some in this. I have given in a some structured way here. Right?
JSON structure.
So last one, namespace is a validation, identifier is invalid boolean. For that parent is validation and validation. For that parent is mule and validation. For all the parent is mule and any. What is this any?
Error type.
Identifier. That means, what do you mean by any? I mean, what you understood from any and how errors are classified into?
Two types.
Yeah, what are those?
Any and critical.
Okay.
So any
What falls under
error is like it will handle at application level.
Falls under any, right? Critical.
It cannot be handled at application level.
Got it? Okay. And by default, whenever you sent a request yesterday, you got an error. What is the status code you observed over there on the Postman?
200.
Think and tell. Think. If it is an error, will you get 200?
No. 500.
500. Okay. Let me run the application first. Okay. Yesterday we have seen about a mule default error handler, right? Today we'll talk about how to handle the exception by using scopes. What are the types of scopes we have? Error handlers. What are the types of error handlers?
On error propagate. On error continue.
On error continue. Very good. Let me go ahead and configure that. So yesterday I understood the use case, right? Yesterday where I got an error? At which connector level?
At validator.
Yeah. What is that validator? Is to validator, correct?
Yeah.
And I didn't handle any exception by using error handling block, right? So what happens? Remaining process will not get executed. Then it will check in a local. Then it will go to the caller, and again in the caller also it will check in a local error handler. Then it will return back to the listener. This is what we learned yesterday, right? And we have seen the entire error information on the console, which is given by the mule default error handler. Now, next I want to talk about if I get any exception at a is true validator, that means any of the component level, I want to catch that exception. How? By using some handler. So assume that there is a handler called, first I'll go with the propagate, on error propagate. So just drag and drop this on error propagate in the error handling block, right? And we can write any logic inside this, okay, any set of a logic. When error handler will be executed? When?
On error.
No. When it will get executed? When? What is the point? When it will going to execute this propagate scope?
When
if you
there
get
is
any
error
exception,
exception.
if you get any exception at a is true validator level, that means what? Event on the event. What type of event will be there? Error event.
Error event.
Right? That error event. Error event means again attributes, payload, and variables, right? So again, this is the alternate logic. You need to treat this propagator also as a scope only, sorry, as a flow only. Okay, whatever the logic you write here, once you write an exception, once you get an exception, this logic will get executed. Then it will check whether it is a propagate scope or a continuous scope. Okay, not before that. Okay. Now let me write some logger just to simulate some response. Right, I'm writing a logger here. This logger, what I want to write, I'm going to write multiple loggers to understand about how the flow works. So right now I'm in which flow? In validate and transform flow. In which scope? I mean, which scope? Propagate scope, right? I'm displaying the logger name also like this. Whether it is deployed already, previous one, still it is getting deployed. Okay, it is deployed. Once I give a request, you will get an error. So where I'm going to get an error here this time, I'm going to get an exception at which level? Is true validator level. So the remaining process will not get executed. Then it will check in a local error handler. Can you please tell me what are the logs will be displayed here? In this case, if I catch the exception, yes, quickly. See, always think in a prospective listener listen, then it will go to the is true. I got an exception at a is true. Next, if you come in that sequence, it will be easy. Now tell me how it works.
It will be thrown back to main flow. So flow reference.
I didn't get your point. A simple question is
error, yeah. So after the logger, I know the error will be thrown back to main flow, right?
Okay. Then in that case, what are the logs is going to display on the console?
Just the one under error propagate.
Okay. And not logger in the main flow?
No.
No.
Okay. If it is no, and what is the response given back to the client?
The same response which we mentioned in the on error propagate. So,
what is that? Come again. Strange.
whatever the message we mentioned in the on error propagate error handle.
Invalidate and transform.
Yeah, there is the same
Why?
message which comes to the client.
Why? What is the reason behind that?
Since it's since we have received the exception, right? So the
No, don't get confused here.
Is it rethrown to the response in HTTP listener?
I thought of I'm repeating multiple times, but still I required some more. So listener is listening for the request. This flow reference is referencing to validate and transform. The event will be processed by the is true validator. Here I got an exception. Then remaining processes will not get executed. Then it will check in local error handler. Is there any handler to catch the exception? Yes. This logger will get executed on console. First it will be displayed on the console. That means it's a logger, right? Then it will check it's a propagate scope. Propagate means what? It will rethrow that error to the next level. What is the next level in this case?
It goes
Flow
to
reference.
Flow
Reference.
Flow reference. So do I get an error here? Yes, right?
Yeah.
Same error event. That error, since I got an error, the logger will get executed? No. That again it will check in a local error handler. Do I have any? No. Did I catch the exception? No, right?
No.
Now who will come into the picture?
Mule event. Mule error event.
Mule default error handler will come into the picture. What it will do? It will logs the error information on the console, entire information on the console, and it will rethrow that error event to the listener. What I configured in the listener under the responses error dot error type. Error type means what is error type here? I'm getting same error type, no? Error dot, what do you mean by error type here? What is the namespace?
the validation.
Validation, invalid boolean, the same error type what we have seen yesterday. Same. What is the difference between yesterday's and today's? What is the difference we have seen here from mule default error handler and this?
Additional logging happens on the
Yes. So now you got the meaning for this. One second, let me go back. Cannot be configured. Which one? Mule default error handler. If I configure a propagate, can I configure? Yes. Whatever the logic I want, can I configure that logic?
Yeah.
What mule default error is doing, mule default error handler is doing, my propagate also doing the same thing, just rethrowing the error to the next level. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Difference is what?
It is logging some, executing
Yes,
some
cannot
log.
be configured, can be configured. Now someone told which will be displayed back to the client. The logger, is it a logger? Is it a logger? Yes, yes. Is it a logger will display?
No message in the mule error event, it will be displaying.
No. Why you are getting confused? So what is the description I have written? That means the responses tab. Under the responses, what I configured?
Error type.
Error type. What is the error type here?
Validation.
And Boolean, right? And hierarchy will be displayed on the client. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes, clear? Okay. So that's what I said. You may think in different way. Actual concept may be the different. If you respond and if you give response, correctly, then we can understand that we are on the same page or not. That is why I'm asking from day one, please respond. Okay, so that I can correct. Okay, next. You have understood the propagate, right? Next, let me go with the continue. Can I write two handlers in one error handling block? Can I write
Yes.
two error handlers?
Yes.
It is scolding me. What is this? Why it is scolding me to when I drag and drop here? Every handler within an error handler must be what? Must be specified when it should get executed, okay? Remember this point, okay? You got an error, you remember this point, because I'm going to delete one error handler. I will show you later how to write two error handling scopes. Right now in validate and transform, this time continue, right? Continue. Now let me save this application. Can you please tell me now how flow works? Think and tell me how a flow works.
So it will go to the next processor, which is a transform message.
Take 1 minute time, think and tell me. No hurry. Yes, go ahead. Yes. Go ahead. Once I got an exception at a is true validator level, how it works?
It will check for the local error handling, and it on error continue that will be executed.
First step. Once I get an exception here, first step is what?
Cancel the rest of the processes. It will not execute.
It is very important in this point mainly. Now tell me.
Okay. Now it goes to the on error continue.
It will create one object.
Error object.
Which object?
Error event. Yeah.
It's already created here.
Right. It will read the error event and perform this.
Whatever the logic present here, it will get executed. That means the logger will be displayed on the console. First step. Right. Next.
It will pass the control to the flow reference in the parent.
Okay. Which event? Control in the sense what? I want everything to be clear.
Error event will be passed back to the flow reference, which is
okay.
Called.
In case of propagate, if it is a propagate scope, then there also error event will be given, right?
Yes.
If it is a continue, then also if it is giving error event, then what is the difference? So the point is, first the logger will get executed, the logic present in this scope will get executed, then it will check whether it is a continue or a propagate. If it is a propagate, error event will be given back to the listener. If it is a continue, it will suppress the error event here and it will create a success event. That means it will give the success event back to the main flow. So my main flow, what it will do, it will think as if nothing has happened here. It will treat the success event. If it is a success event, this logger will get processed or not?
Yeah, it will.
This logger also will get displayed. Then will it check in a local error handler of a main flow?
No.
No. Right? No. Then what is the response tab will be displayed back to the client?
Success response.
And then what is the payload?
The message which is in the logger, the last log.
Logger is not a payload. Don't get confused. Logger is only the log information. Yeah, what will be the payload? It's an empty payload, right? As of now, I create
Because
create
error
an
will
empty
not be
payload.
there.
Payload will not be there, empty payload, right? So let me send a request. So what is the response I got? Empty. What is the status code?
200.
200.
Success.
When we were 200, if it is success, right? Now, how many logs are able to see? First, the logger present in the validate and transform, right? Next, the logger present in the main flow. What is that logger?
Message.
So what is that logger?
Text.
In main flow after getting all the products. Yes or no? Right? Now understood the difference between a logger and a continue? Their properties? How it works?
Yeah.
Yes, no?
Yes, Ajit.
Okay. Let me go with the PPT now. Yeah. Can anyone read this quickly? Shiva, can you please read, Shiva?
On error propagate, all the process in the error handling scope are executed.
Be energetic.
At the end of the scope, the rest of the flow that through the error is not executed.
First thing, all the processes in the error handling scope are executed. Understood the point here?
Right.
Whatever the logic present in the scope will get executed, irrespective of the error type. I mean, scope type, okay, whether it's a continue or a propagate, both the cases, the logic present in this handler will get executed. Okay, then it will check propagate or continue. If it is a propagate, the rest of the flow, the throw error is not executed, right? The error is rethrown up to the next level. The error will be rethrown to the next level. In this case, it will rethrow the main flow and handles there. Handles there in the sense, it will check in a local error handler again, right? And HTTP listener returns and what response?
Error response.
If it is a propagate. If it is a propagate. In this case of a continue, only this point will be different. What is this point? Can you read this, Shiva?
The event is passed up to the next level as if the flow execution had complete successful.
Now understood? The event is passed up to the next level as if nothing has happened here in this validate and transform. That means it will suppress and it will give the success event back to the main flow. My main flow, what it will do? It is a success event, right? Success event means it will continue with the process. Right? That's why you can see the logger. And HTTP listener returns what response?
Successful response.
Success response. See, these are the use cases, I mean scenarios I have given. Okay. First, I will explain one. Remaining things I want everyone to explain one by one. So first, I have only one flow. Okay. Here I have a listener, and a listener converted into event. E is the one of the processor. I got an error. Occurred at this E processor level. So error gets thrown. Then subsequent process will execute or not. Subsequent process not executed. Then it will check in what? Local error handler. Did I configure any error handler here? No. So mule default error handler will get executed. What it will do? It will rethrow the error to the next level. What is the next level in this case? Listener.
HTTP listener.
Listener will return what? Error response. Okay, this is the simple use case. Next, let me move to the next slide. Can anyone explain this quickly?
Yeah, the error occurs at E component,
yes.
And the rest of the process will not be executed, and the error event will be created. It will check in the local scope, and the local scope has on error propagate scope. In this, Yeah, this will thrown back to the next flow. The next flow here is HTTP
No.
listener.
Okay, next, not next flow, next level.
Next level. The next level is here. It is HTTP listener, and it goes to the it gives error response.
Okay.
So error response will be displayed in Postman.
Exactly. Whatever the logic present in the scope, in the honor propagate scope, will execute or not?
Yes, it will execute.
Okay, very good. Next slide. Okay, before continue, can anyone tell me, is there any wrong in this slide? Anyone can identify? No? Yes?
Success response return.
No. What is the error in this slide? Is there any wrong in this slide?
Error gets thrown.
Why error gets thrown?
Well, it will continue after. It will continue, right? It will go to next step. It will give the successful response. It will not throw any error.
You mean to
It will not go
subsequent
to the
process
next
will
level.
get executed? The
Yeah.
P processor will get executed?
Yes.
No,
Any other answers?
it should not execute here. The error occurs in the E.
So what is the flow? Shrikant, silent today? Miteku, if you want to go through? Yes, please go ahead. Anyone tell me the flow. Quick. Many, I mean, a lot of time will be spent on this. Yes, please tell me. See, there is no right, wrong answers. Just tell you a review. If it is wrong, I will correct. If it is right, perfect.
Hey,
Whenever
Sujit,
the exception is occurred, it will check in the local exception handler, which is in error continue. Whatever the logic is expected here, it will be executed, and it will go to the next level, which is the listener. It gives back the, it goes back to the listener.
Okay. Subsequent process will execute or not execute.
It
If I
will not be.
configure as a continue.
It will not be executed.
But I configured as a continue over there, right?
Yeah.
So
But if
will
it
it
is a subflow, then it will goes back to the main flow and it will execute the next processor.
okay? In this case, will it execute or not?
No, Sujit, it will not be executed.
How many of you agree?
Yes, Sujit, it will not execute, but it will give the response success state.
How many of you agree with the?
I also agree.
I agree with Ratnakar.
Perfect. Perfect. Many times we'll get confused here only. See, this continuous scope, whatever the scope, that is why I'm stressing the point. Subsequent process will not execute from the day, I mean, whenever I start the exception. That is why I'm asking for the flow. Whenever you get any exception at one of the processor level, next process will not get executed. Then it will check in a local error handler. Then the logic will get executed. Whatever the logic present in the scope will get executed. Then again, it will check for the continue or a propagate. If it is a propagate, error event given to the listener. If it is a continue, success event will be given to the listener. Nowhere responsible to the subsequent processors in the current flow. Okay. Yeah, this is our use case. Please go ahead. Anyone? Arvind, can you please go ahead, Arvind?
Yeah, Sujit. When a client calls the list, so you want me to explain this flow, right?
Yeah, just flow.
Yeah. So when the client calls the listener, flow reference will be called, and the subflow error happens.
It is
And
not a subflow. It is not a subflow. First thing, it is a private flow.
Okay,
Child
private
flow or a private flow. Okay, subflow is a different concept again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Child flow will get executed and error will be thrown, which will be processed by error propagate scope.
You missed one point again. Subsequent process.
Yeah, subsequent process will be stopped.
Yeah.
And then error will be processed by error propagate scope.
Again, we missed one more point.
Oh, I have to go through the right hand side. Huh? Error propagate, error gets thrown, and the error propagate scope will get executed, and the error will get rethrown.
No. Small point you're missing.
Execute the logic in the error.
Execute, yeah. So whatever we have configured in the propagate scope, that will get executed, and then error will get rethrown.
Again, one more point here. Not only propagate
go
scope.
to the next level.
No. I'll see. I'm correcting every minute point also because I don't want everyone to be in the same flow. See, once I get an error at a child flow, okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Arvind. Okay, just I'm correcting that point. So once I get an error at an E processor level, first step is what? Subsequent process will not get executed, right? Then, as you said, mule runtime will try to figure out, is there any scope configured? Okay, some scope is configured. And whatever the logic present in that, first it will get executed. Then it will check whether it's a propagate scope or a continuous scope. Understood the difference? Now we go ahead.
Yeah. So since it is a propagate scope, error will be rethrown to the main flow. And there also subsequent process will not get executed.
Yes.
Error will be processed by error propagate scope, and then error will be rethrown to the listener.
No, again you missed the point. Sorry.
Mm.
Logic present in that scope will get executed again. Processed in the sense.
Yeah.
I mean, not only propagate scope. I mean, I don't know whether you are thinking maybe correct in prospective, but the way is first the logic will get executed, then it will check a propagate or a continue. That should come in a line in a sequence.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So since it's a propagate, it will be rethrown back to the
listener.
Listener will give whatever you configured in the body. Either it could be a description or a type as well. Okay. Finally, it will give what is the status code?
500.
Next slide. Next use case. Anyone want to continue? By this time, we should be champing this.
Let's see.
First of all,
let
can
me
you
try
identify
this.
any error here? Pardon, Arvind?
Let me try again. So
yeah, please try.
If you want me to, I can try again. So
yeah.
So when the client makes the call, flow reference will get executed, and from there the private flow will get started. Within the private flow, error will get thrown. Subsequent process will get stopped, will not get executed.
Perfect.
And then error propagate scope will get executed. Whatever logic we have within the scope, that will get executed.
First,
and it will check whether it is a propagate or a continuous scope.
Excellent.
Since it is a propagate scope, it will get rethrown to the main flow.
What will rethrow?
The error will be rethrown to the main flow. Yeah, error event will be rethrown to the main flow. And within main flow, the subsequent process will not get executed, will be stopped. Error will be handled by error continuous scope. Whatever logic we have in error continuous scope, that will get executed.
Excellent. Perfect.
And since it is a continuous scope, success event will be returned to listener.
Yeah. What happened to the error event? It will be suppressed.
Yeah, that will be suppressed. Yeah.
Got it. Next. So everyone understood the flow. He explained in very clean.
Yep.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
Sujit.
Next use case. Who wants to try? Who wants to try? No one again. It's a high time. Come on. Anyone? Please go ahead.
Let me try again if no one wants to try. Yeah, go ahead.
No, we'll give some chance to others. Sorry.
Yeah,
We'll
okay.
give some. Yes, Sushmita, please go ahead.
Yeah, HTTP listener will be executed, and the next component flow reference will be executed, and it goes to the private flow. In private flow, the error occurs at the E level, and it checks in the local error handler. The error continue scope will be executed. The logic, whatever is there inside, it will be. I'm so sorry. The subsequent processor will be stopped, and it will check the local error handler, and the error continue scope will be executed. The logic inside will be executed.
Okay.
And it will check whether it is propagate or continue. Since it is continue, the next process will be executed.
Which process? No. You are telling that in a child flow, on error continue scope will get executed, right?
Yeah.
That means first logic will get executed, then continue means what? It will give the success event to the caller flow, right?
Yeah, the next level, that is the calling flow. So
Okay.
the error event will be going there.
No, not error event. Success event, right? Continue scope.
Yeah, continue scope.
Continue scope means what? Success event.
Yes.
I think we are getting confused. 1 second, let me draw here quickly. So I got an error, subsequent process not execute, then it will check in a local error handler, it will execute the logic present in it, and it is a continuous scope. Success event will be given to the main flow. Then if it is success event, these subsequent processes are executed or not? Will get executed.
It will be executed.
Right? Then will it check in a local error handler?
No.
That is the reason I have written continue or propagate. Irrespective of that, it will be giving a success event by the listener.
Response.
Success response by the listener. Hope everyone have a clear-cut understanding about a propagate and continue scope with these use cases.
Sujit, 1 second, just in the last point. So subsequent processor executed, right? So once we receive that success state from the child flow, can you explain the last step? What it will give the response to that listener, final step?
Success only.
Okay, after success, subsequent.
It will treat, it will treat as a success event. Success event means what? At the end of the flow, whatever the success event, that will be given back to the listener, right? In the
Okay, it
listener,
will not execute again in error, right?
Why?
So
if it is a success, why it will go to the local? Error handler. Then it will go to the error handler. If it is an error, then it will go to the local error handler. I am already getting a success event. Success event means
down if you get propagate scope means it will go for error handler. If down it is continuous scope. Yes. Here if
yes. Perfect.
Cleared, Sujit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next. So till now, where I got an exception? At a is true validator level, I catch the exception and all, right? Now let me delete this scope here, continuous scope. Now I will make sure that it is not an error at a is true validator. I will give a request to here. So is true validator will be success. What is the next level? Next processor, transform message, which is giving some XML body, right, as an input in the payload. That means payload is what? XML body. So that in that event will be processed to the flow reference. This flow reference is referencing to get product by name flow. So here I have a consume connector, and now is it required a parse template here? Parse template. My consume connector will expect in XML format. Is it required a parse template?
No,
it's already
Not required.
handled
it's
in the
already in
transform.
XML format.
Yes, from the transformer, I already converted into the XML format. So get product by name. Once I pass the request, it will give some product by name. But which application is this pointing to? Assume that my application only web service, product service SOAP application. Did I started a sub server? No, right? The third party application I didn't start it, right? So definitely I'm going to get an exception here, right? Let me have that exception here. So what type of exception if the third party server is down? How to identify? At a consume connector level, will I be getting only one type of error? Multiple type of errors it may occur, right? So if the third party server is down, what type of exception I can expect? In normal cases, based on the exception only, you need to understand what type of error it is.
Error 500. No, server.
500 is the status code, right? So what is the error type here? Let me go back to the error information on the console. You ignore about this error. That means whatever the error we are getting here as of now, what is here? What is the error information? What is the message? An error occurred while sending the SOAP request. What type of error it is? What is the namespace and identifier?
Web service consume.
WSC is the namespace and cannot dispatch is the identifier. So by seeing this cannot dispatch, what you need to identify? Okay, the third party server is down. Okay, so I want to write some alternate logic by using a propagate scope. Okay, I want to catch that. So I'm writing some scope in the error handling block, right? Again, I will write a logger. I mean, whatever the logic you want, you can write it. As of now, I just want to display how it works. I'm writing in which flow? In get product by name equal to propagate scope. Okay, I'm just saving this application. Can you please tell me the flow right now? Yeah, it's very simple.
Yeah.
This logger will get execute. Definitely this logger will get execute. Next.
And it returns the error to the next level, that is the flow reference in validate and transform, and it checks again in the error handler, the local error handler in that flow.
Then it will go directly to the listener. I mean, I'm skipping the points because you already know.
Yeah.
So it directly go to the listener, and listener will return what response?
Error response.
How many logs you need to see here by default? If I give a request, how many logs? Only
two. Only one.
One log, right? Which is there in the on error propagate.
Okay, yeah, one log.
I'm just dragging up here. In get product by name equal to propagate. This is the logger, right? Okay. Now one straightforward question to you guys. Assume that I have one more consume connector. One more consume connector here in the get product by name. Read that these two consume connectors are pointing to two different applications. This is one consume connector and this is one consume connector. Consume connector 1, consume connector 2. And both are pointing to some third party SOAP application 1. This is the third party SOAP application 2. So both the servers are down. So what type of exception you are going to get from the consume connector? If it is pointing, if you are sending a request, if the third party server is down, what type of response you are going to get? What is the error type?
Cannot dispatch.
Cannot dispatch. Here also cannot dispatch.
WSC.
Okay, WSC cannot dispatch. WSC cannot dispatch. Both are same, correct? Right?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, I want to execute this logic, the logger. Example, I want to execute this logger if I am getting an exception from the consume connector 2. Only in the consume connector 2, I want to execute this logic. Can you please tell me how to identify that cannot dispatch is coming from the consume connector 1 or 2? Once you identify, then only I can map here. Okay, this is the error I'm getting, so that I want to execute this one. Yeah. How to identify? After your development, you don't think in a developer perspective. Okay, you deploy the application, you are getting some error as WSC cannot dispatch. Now tell me how to identify that error, whether it is coming from the first consume connector or second consume connector.
Using identifier of the consumer, we can know, right?
Identifier in the sense?
In XML tag, we will have different identifiers for all the components, right?
As a client, are you able to see the XML and everything? The idea is correct. What you told, the idea is correct. We need to identify, but how?
Error description, what we define in the.
No. Description is a string. Yeah, I mean, answer is on the screen if you closely observe. So I'm running out of time. That is why I'm giving an answer here. The consume connector, every connector for that matter, there is a concept called error mapping. Yes, click on that error mapping. Assume that I want to execute this logic present in the scope. When I get an exception from the, this time I will change to first consume connector. I'm getting an exception from the consume connector. So what type of error I'm expecting? If you click on a plus sign at this connector level, that means at this flow level, what and all of the exceptions can be possible, it is listed here. So right now, what type of error you are expecting the third party server is down?
Cannot dispatch.
Cannot dispatch. Can I map that error to my own error type? That means custom error type. Yes. Now you can see app is the namespace I'm giving for that, and identifier is Sujit. Example. So internally we are going to get as a exception as a cannot dispatch, right? Internally it will map it to app colon Sujit, and finally it will throw what type of error from the first consume connector if the third party server is down. Yes, what type of error? What is error type here in this case?
WS cannot dispatch only.
No.
App
Sujit, right? That's what I map it to. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me delete this. So I want to execute this logger present in this on error propagate scope when I get an error from the first consume connector as a app colon Sujit. So you need to just select that. Okay, select that on error propagate. There you can see the type. Click on a search button. So app colon Sujit is also part of that error right now, right? So am I expecting app colon Sujit? Then only I want to execute this logger. Understood? Yes or no?
Yes.
Got it. And one more thing, this app colon Sujit, whatever the name, custom error type, namespace and identifier should be written in a capital letters only, not in the upper camel case or lower camel case. No, it should be in a capital only. Can I write two error handlers in a single error handling block?
Yes,
Yes.
by using one condition.
Previously, it was thrown an error. Right now, is it throwing any error here? Previously, I asked you to remember one point when I drag and drop two error handlers. It is scolding me at that point of time. What is that? What is that reason? Because it is asking me to specify when that, I mean, we need to execute this scope. That means that it is asking me to specify the type. Since I specified the type, it is not throwing any error. Okay, you may ask me a question. On error continue, I am not configure any type. Why? By default, if you're not configured anything, by default it's a what type? It's a any type. If you explicitly write or not, by default it's an any type. Okay, so let me write one more logger here. This time it's a continue. Okay, now can you please tell me here, if I deploy this application, I'm getting an exception at a consume connector level, which scope will get executed? propagate or continue?
Propagate first because app Sujit is
It is matching. Okay,
matching.
very straightforward. I'm changing that scope to bad request, which is not matching. Now, which scope will get executed?
Any error continue, any will be.
Okay. Now I will change the continue to any to app colon Sujit. Now it will, which one will execute?
On error continue app Sujit.
Perfect. Okay. Now I am changing propagate to which one will get execute?
App Sujit only. On error continue.
On error continue.
No. No. Any means what? App colon Sujit is not part of any.
Is part is it like sequencing also? It is defined there the way
Exactly.
you drop.
Exactly.
Okay.
Hierarchy matters.
Okay.
Okay. Hierarchy. It will check from the top to bottom hierarchy, right? So normally in Java, it will throw as an error. It will not able to. We are not able to write that only. Parent exception cannot be written upfront. If there is an exception as a parent and arithmetic exception is a child, can we write arithmetic exception next and the exception as a first? If you are from Java background, can you please tell? No, it will not allow you, right? But here it is allowing. I don't know how it is allowing. Every time if you configure this on error propagate as any, every time this logic only will get executed. What is the point in this continuous code? Got it? Understood? No? Yes?
Yes, understood.
Okay. There is last topic. There is something called handler. I am calling this handler as a global error handler. Okay. So whatever the scope you have written here, okay. Let me map this to app colon Sujit and this one to any type. Then I will change it. Okay. Now I will take this on error propagate to application error handler. Continue also from the application error handler. Right now. I'm telling that this handler is a global error handler, but if I understood that as a global error handler, definitely I need to specify to the runtime also, please take this flow as a global error handler, right? So you need to configure one global element called configuration. That means we are defining that this flow is global error handler. Okay, we explicitly define that it is the global error handler. What do you mean by global error handler? I got an exception at a consume connector level. Okay, now you know it will check in a local error handler. Have I written any logic to handle that exception?
No.
No. Now what happens? Mule default error handler will come into the picture normally. Yes or no? Right?
Yes.
In this case, since I configured this as a global error handler or application error handler, instead of mule default error handler, this will come into the picture. Right? This will be treated as a local node. So is it matching with the error?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, right. So since it's a propagate, this logger will get executed and the error will be rethrown to the next level. What is the next level? Validate and transform. So again, will it check in a local error handler for that event?
Yes.
For that error? But did I configure anything in local?
No.
So will it go back again to the application's error handler? Yes. Again, the propagate scope will get executed. So like that, how many times it will get execute? The global error handler propagate scope?
3 times.
3 times. 3 times you will be executed. Okay. Next. Let me configure one more propagate scope in the validate and transform. Okay, here only I will write it. And I will map this to bad request. Okay. Now tell me, can you tell me the flow? I got an exception at a consume connector level. Assume that I have some logger in this. Will it get executed or not?
No, because the type is not matched.
No matching. Then what happens?
Global error handler.
Will it go to the global or
Yes.
not? This is a very important point in a certification perspective. If you configure any scope locally, whether it is matching or not matching, irrespective of that, it will not go to the global error handler. In that case, mule default error handler will come into the picture. Got it? Understood?
Yeah.
If you configure any scope locally, whether it is matching or not matching, it will not go to the global. If it is not matching, mule default error handler will come into the picture. Understood? Clear?
Yes.
Yes,
This is
sir.
a very important point in a certification perspective. Definitely we will be getting one scenario based on this. Yeah. While you practicing, see, I'm just telling the concept here. While you practicing, definitely you write some logger or whatever it is and try to execute that and observe whether the logger you are able to see or not. Okay. Any doubts here? Quickly, 5 minutes. I will take 5 minutes. Which error scopes handles an error? If a flow has an error handler, the error is handled by the first scope whose condition evaluates to true. As that's what I have seen. We have seen in a hierarchy whose condition evaluates to true. In the sense, if it is matching with the error, then that will get executed in a hierarchy, right? If no scope conditions are true, the error is handled by the mule default error handler, not by the application's default error handler, right? If no condition is true, mule default error handler will come into the picture. Got it? The mule default error handler propagates. You know what mule default error handler will do. Then, if flow does not have an error handler, first scenario, what we are saying, if there is no error handler in the local, then it will be handled by the application's default error handler. Got it? Next, in the application's default error handler, if it is not matching again, who will come to the picture? Mule
default.
So quickly, I have only four slides about this scenario. Can anyone go ahead quickly, or else should I explain? Okay, let me explain. So I have a listener. I got an exception at one of the processor level. You know, subsequent process will not get executed. So do I have any local error handler? No. Now next, we have an application's default error handler, but with no matching scope. Condition is not matched. Then mule default error handler will come. Correct? What it will do? It will rethrow the error to the listener. Listener will return error response. In this case, here also I don't have a local error handler, but in application's default error handler, I have a matching scope. Matching scope, right? I didn't mention any propagator or continue. That's why I written error or a success will be written based on the scope configured in the application. Got it? Next, I have local error handler this time, but local error handlers are not matching. Will it go to the application error handler?
No, it goes to me.
No. If I configured locally, whether it is matching or not matching, will it go to the application? No, right?
No.
Not go to the application. In that case, if it is not matching, mule default error handler will come into the picture. Right? Is there any difference between this slide and the previous slide? I have written in the last slide, application's default error handler is matching. Is there any point in that? If I configured locally, first of all, it is not going to the global one only. Right? So mule default only will come into the picture. Right? Understood the scenarios here? Please go through the recording one more time. If anyone are confused, please go through the recording one more time and try to execute the logic. Whatever the concept I told, please try to write some logic or write some log or whatever you feel and try to execute and see on the console whatever it is. Mainly understand about how a flow works. Once you understand how a flow works, whatever the logic you write, you can able to crack it. Okay, in the certification perspective, you don't need to practice also. Okay, I will share this PPT with all of you guys once I close the session. please go through this PPT entirely as well. Okay, different kind of use cases. That's all from my end for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So at the end
Thanks.
of the session,